Courage. It is not about putting on a suit of armor and going to war. It's that moment when you realize that the battle is lost, and yet you stand in the wilderness with your heart wide open anyway, even when everything in you wants to shut down, wants to run. There are many kinds of courage, but three that I know we all need in this world. I learned them the hard way. In 1990, I married the love of my life, Stuart. 4 years later, we stood in the queue to vote for South Africa's freedom. I was heavily pregnant with my first child, Jenna. Gentle and bright, she was one of the first born frees. Just 3 years later, along came Christy, bouncing into the world, a literal ray of sunshine. And yet, at just 6 weeks, what appeared to be a skin condition turned out to be a rare immune system condition, which meant, amongst other things, she could never have anesthetic. Should she require stitches or surgery, that was not an option. I had to find the first level of courage, the courage to face reality, not what I wished it to be, but what it was. We found ways to stay strong, to be hopeful, to deal with the uncertainty that she would either outgrow it with the onset of puberty or take it into adult life as a life-threatening condition. We got lucky. Christy outgrew it. We could breathe out, but not for long. Jen, at that point, was 16, top of her grade, flying, and so happy. But she started to show signs of alarming breathlessness. Test after test after test revealed nothing. It took determination, many doctors, and 18 difficult months to get a definitive diagnosis of pulmonary hypertension. Sounds harmless, right? It's not. Pulmonary hypertension is an incredibly rare lung disease for which there is no cure. I threw myself into medical research, but the medical journals, they offered little hope. Prognosis for advanced disease, 1 to 3 years. I couldn't believe it. I also couldn't believe that of the 18 treatments that were then available globally, only one entry-level drug was available here in South Africa. I stared at my research, 1 to 3 years. Something in me shifted deep inside. I found a new kind of courage, the courage to fight. If the system wasn't going to save her, I was. So began an epic 4-year battle. We fought to get a collaborative medical team. We rallied medical aides. We rallied medical control council. We found and brought in treatments. We even presented to Parliament. Advocacy and access to care were becoming a full-time job, one for which awareness of the illness was becoming crucial. But Jen was bright, beautiful, and eloquent. And so, catching the attention of the media, well, that was the easy part. We used our voices as a family to raise awareness for the illness. And it was astounding to watch. Literally, the landscape of pulmonary hypertension was changing in front of our very eyes. Not just for Jen, but for countless other patients who were now putting up their hand for support. One person can change everything. We campaigned, fundraised, even changed policies, and yet Jen continued to get worse. By now, she was on full-time oxygen, a portable machine she called Oxygen, and a mobility scooter to get around. But Jen was no victim. She wrote her final school exams on a massive oxygen machine she called Thunder because it made such a noise. And she got 7 distinctions, was one of the Western Cape's top 30 students. But still, regardless of our efforts, she got worse. I needed to get my hands on an intravenous medication. It was available elsewhere in the world, and I had heard it was making a massive difference to other PH patients. It went through a line, through a pump, and straight into her heart for 24 hours a day. By now, I realized I had to bridge her to transplant. Yeah, by then, it had become crystal clear that a double lung transplant, well, that was her only hope of survival. By then came the moment that rocked us the most. I needed to reach out and get this drug, right? Jen and Christy, while we were campaigning, had written a song. It was called I Need More Time. Jen wrote the lyrics, Christy lent it her beautiful voice. And it rocketed onto the iTunes charts. Little did I know that it had reverberated through the global PH community, so that when I reached out to these international doctors and I said, please, can you help us with this medication? They already knew our story. So, in a logistical coup, literally, the medication came from the UK, the lines, the equipment, the pumps came from Australia, and the expertise to help us to titrate Jenna onto the drug and to teach me how to mix it came from the United States. Stuart and I set up a sterile hospital room at home. Every morning, I had to mix the medication. It took 60 minutes. A 35-step, scientifically precise, sterile process. If I made a mistake, well, I literally held her life in my hands. And yet there was Jen, staring up to me, believing, encouraging, hopeful, and determined. In so many extraordinary ways, she became more and more powerful the less and less physically able that she became. Her grace and her stoicism were remarkable. Not once did I see a shred of self-pity. And our home, it was filled with a visceral sense of being alive. Everybody wanted to be there. You know, I really believed that if I fought hard enough, loud enough, smart enough, I would save her. But regardless of the medication, she was in deep trouble, and now emergency listed for double lung transplant. Then came that moment that rocked us to the core. When we realized that in South Africa, the home of the heart transplant, less than 0.2% of our population are organ donors. The chance of her getting her lungs were virtually nil. We had to do something. Jenna's award-winning Get Me to 21 campaign was born out of sheer desperation. It was a 45-second video of Jen taken from her bed, inviting the whole nation to her 21st birthday. She literally said, I don't care what size, age, color you are, you're invited. All you have to do to come to my party is sign up to be an organ donor. It went viral, literally. Jen single-handedly increased the organ donation rate by 287% in just 3 months. I'll say it again, one person can change everything. And she was awarded South Africa's Youth Hero of the year. On the 10th of December 2014, we got the call. We've got lungs, we have a match. It was a mad adrenaline rush to get her safely to Johannesburg for an 8-hour life-saving surgery. There was so much excitement and so much hope, and yet what followed was not what we had hoped. 6 months of interminable suffering. Now I had to find a new kind of courage. The courage to put down the warrior, to put down my shield, to be present, and to become the witness. I sat with my child in ICU for 6 months, 187 days. Organ failure, seizures, paralysis of the stomach, indescribable nausea, inability to eat. I had to bear her pain, her suffering with her. I had to be present for her and present for her dying. We lost Jen in June 2015. To be honest, there was a part of me that wanted to die too. 6 short months after losing our Jen, beloved Stuart sat Christy and I down, and he said, "I do not know how to tell you this, but I have cancer, bone marrow cancer." In a courageous act of love, he had known for 2 years and kept it to himself until he could no longer do treatment alone. How could we find the courage in the middle of that racking grief to do it again, to face ever-changing reality, to fight, to be present with each other through that? And yet, here's what I learned. Courage, much like love, is not finite. The more you need it, the more you use it, the more you develop it, the more you have. We found ways, and Stu was an incredible cancer warrior. He literally brought groundbreaking medications into South Africa to pave the way for other patients. While he did so, I started 2 life coaching practices and have helped numerous people navigate trauma, challenge, change. I co-authored a model on authentic resilience, which I teach with another life coach around the world. Stuart and I together co-founded a not-for-profit organization in Jenna's name to honor her legacy and continue her important work. It gave us purpose. And where there was nothing before, there are now PH clinics throughout South Africa serving thousands of patients. There's greater access to care, greater access to treatment, and of course, still more to be done. I wrote a best-selling book called Get Me to 21 and produced a documentary of the same name so that this awareness will keep on going into the future. For 10 years, Stuart, Christy, and I found ways to hope, to really live, to love, and to cycle through all of those levels of courage together. And then, just under a year ago, came that devastating day where we lost Stuart too. A day we knew would come, but that you can never truly be prepared for. Significantly, he died on what would have been Jenna's 30th birthday. The circle of life and death, continual. The word courage comes from the Latin word cor, and it means heart. It's a choice. Courage is a choice to stay with an open heart, even when everything in you wants to shut down. Here's what I know. There are three kinds of courage we need in order to thrive in the face of adversity. First, the courage to face reality, even when it's not what you want it to be. Don't waste your energy wishing for it to be different. Suffering lies in that gap. Close it. The second, the courage to fight. You have a power inside of you so much greater than you know. There's a warrior in there. Use it. Don't lie down. Don't take no for an answer. But the third, and the one that no one tells you about, the hardest kind of courage, is the courage to be present, to be vulnerable, to put down the shield, to put down the fight, to bear the unbearable without looking away, to feel the pain so that you can feel the joy. Because in truth, the brutal and the beautiful, they live side by side. You don't get the one without the other. That's what it means to stand in the wilderness with your heart wide open when everything in you wants to shut down and to run. And that kind of courage is the courage that makes life worthwhile and meaningful, even in the face of unspeakable heartache. Thank you.